Thank you so much, Will. Greetings to all of you. I come from a beautiful country in Southern Africa called Zambia. I invite you to visit it one day. I'll take this opportunity to do some tourism marketing. I'll start with the status quo. This could be any city in Africa. On the left, you have the low-density area representing opulence and a wonderful life. On the right, you have a high-density area, a shanty compound, as we call it, with poverty and hardships. This image represents inequality. That inequality can be transferred to this landscape. In the middle, you have the national park. The next layer is the game management area, which is a buffer zone for the national park. You have communities that live there and interact with wildlife. On the outside, you have the customary open area. On the outside, in the customary open area and the GMA, you have poverty, you have food insecurity, you have lack of nutrition. So the question is, what exactly can we do to help these local communities that are in the customary open area and the GMA to improve their lives, remove food insecurity, increase their financial capacity, regenerate this ecosystem on the outside? And once this ecosystem is regenerated, we know it will have a cascading effect into regeneration of the GMA, and that will cascade into regeneration of the national park. The opposite, degradation in the customary open area, also leads to degradation in the GMA and degradation in the national park. If there is degradation in the GMA, which is where hunting often happens, it means now you have to bait wildlife from the inside to come out. What I'm offering are what I call ethical conservation tools. There are 4 of them. Introduction of agroecology, which leads to soil credits, which leads to biodiversity credits, and the last one is community-owned, non-consumptive tourism enterprises. I refer to agroecology as the mainstay conservation tool because it's probably the best ally that conservation has, and I'll explain why. Agroecology is a practice, it's a science, and it's a social movement that's growing in Africa. It promotes the use of indigenous seeds and heritage seeds. So that takes away the need to buy seeds or receive seeds from the government. So that's a reduction in cost already. It promotes the use of organic manure. So that means you take out the use of artificial fertilizers that are again expensive and have to be supplied by government. It promotes the use of eco-friendly pesticides. In fact, the seeds we are talking about, the indigenous seeds and heritage seeds, they are drought resistant. Most of them are drought resistant. Most of them are resistant to pest attacks because they've adapted to the landscape. The benefits of agroecology are in the fact that you have regeneration of the farming ecosystems. This, as I've explained already, has a cascading benefit to the GMA and the national park. You have a reduction in costs for production, which makes farming more profitable. Then it is entirely based on indigenous knowledge systems which borrow from science to enhance themselves. So we are not reinventing the wheel. We're simply going back to our roots to look at the practices that were popular in the past. Agroecology leads to the regeneration of soil. That means an increase in the organic matter in the soil. That means more humus. That means more microorganisms. So the question is, if we know that there is regeneration of soil, if we know that there is carbon being sequestered and there's an increase in organic matter and microorganisms, isn't there an opportunity to have soil credits? Can't the farmers be rewarded for this process of regeneration of the soil? The soil being the foundation and the soil being regenerated means reduced flooding, reduced degradation. It also means increase in biodiversity. We're referring to both flora and fauna. If biodiversity does increase, isn't there an opportunity to now have biodiversity credits? We know that the EU rewards farmers for increasing biodiversity on their farms. There is a deliberate effort for farmers to leave a part of their farm for rewilding. Can't the same model be used in Africa? Lastly, I talk about community-owned, non-consumptive tourism enterprises. It's almost as if there is an unwritten rule that local communities in Africa cannot be trusted to run businesses, to own businesses. I wonder why. Because most of these natural resources that are being managed on their behalf and are said to be for their benefit belong to them. So why can't they be trusted to manage these resources? Why can't they have lodges that they own entirely and they employ people to manage and do the accounting for them? Why don't local communities have the right to manage? Why should they just have the right to access and the right to benefit? Why shouldn't they have the right to manage? Why shouldn't they have the right to ownership? Isn't community-based natural resource management all about ownership and the right to manage? So when you look at the ecotourism village, that could be in the customary open area or the GMA, we are now talking about the products of that soil, all that food, all the beverages that can be extracted from the food, all the byproducts from that food, which are now part of the culture of this community being exported to the world. You now invite tourists to come and savor all these in these eco-villages. And the money generated from there goes into the local bank account, not externalized in an account abroad. Their money, they can withdraw it anytime and use it to improve their livelihoods and invest in other businesses, such as owning a lodge in the GMA and owning a lodge in the national park. Yes, we must dare to dream. Why shouldn't they own a lodge? I know people will say, but where will the capital come from? They can invite investors. If they have the right to this land, they can invite investors. They can generate their own money and invest in ecotourism-styled lodges. They don't have to be posh or expensive. Why shouldn't they dream of owning that lodge? Why can't the current lodges offer them shareholding in the existing lodges? Isn't that a possibility? That's also ownership. That bank is important because it's local. Their money, they use it to improve their lives. It doesn't go into a government account, neither does it go to a foreign account. Ethical conservation tools are not just about Africa, and they're not just for Africa. They are tools that I feel we should all get behind because they help us take care of wildlife. They help us regenerate ecosystems. I end with images of our community engagement through various partners in South Africa, in Zambia, where we do outreach to schools, where we promote local foods, donate local heritage seed, and of course, the fact that we do engage with various minds, both for and against trophy hunting on various platforms. An example they're given of COP19. I end the presentation there. Thank you so much.